So, welcome back to another episode of Author Speak. This is the Real Talk with Real People podcast network, and I am your host, Caroline Bethea-Jones, author of Someone to Love, Fragile Heart, Women on the Edge, and soon to be released, Deception. My co-host is Renee Marshall-McKinley, and she is a brand new author of the book Pouring, a Story of Sisterhood. Renee, how are you today?
I am blessed and highly favored. I am so grateful that I'm on the line today. It's been a busy weekend.
Oh, yes. It's been a busy weekend for us all. We are happy to be here.
Yes.
We are also happy to have a guest today.
Yes.
My guest today is Dr. Eva D. Lyle-Smith. Yes. So we're happy to have her here today. So Dr. Eva Diane Lyle-Smith is a trumpeter, a music educator, and band director. She has taught music on pre-K through college level for over 40 years. She is a retired band director and teacher of music with the Camden City Schools in Camden, New Jersey. Dr. Eva is the first female band director in the historical Black colleges and universities, HBCU. She worked in Fayetteville State University in North Carolina from 1977 through 1980, and she is the first female band director in the CIAA. That stands for Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, and I am so thrilled to have her here today. Welcome to our show, Dr. Eva.
I'm very, very happy to be a part of Real Talk, Real Authors.
Oh my God, we're happy to have you. So, for all of you who do not know, Dr. Eva has written a book, and it's called Nathaniel Clark Smith, Pioneer American Music Educator. Let's dive right on in.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself, because reading a bio is one thing, but allowing our guests to tell us a little bit about themselves is usually so much better.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, Dr. Eva, tell us about
Real Talk. I'm a product of St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised in the 1950s. And my mother grew up with Miles Davis in East St. Louis for a period of time. They only lived about a mile away from each other. And Miles used to come over to St. Louis and play in the big bands, which was only about a mile away. He could see East St. Louis from St. Louis, and he would visit and play. Now, when I grew up in St. Louis, we could not, in elementary schools, we could not afford instruments, band instruments. So, miraculously, 2 violins came to each of the schools in the St. Louis public schools. And you had to be the smartest ones in the class to play. Well, I was near the top, but I was never the top. So the first 2 instruments, the violins, went to the smartest, and I was always upset because I didn't get picked. So that drove that need to want to play an instrument back then. It was only when I got to high school that I was able to play an instrument, and I selected the trumpet because of my brother Michael, who was 2 years older than me. And we were quite competitive, friendly competitive, sister-brother competitive. Anything he could do, I felt I could do better. And I had 2 cousins, and they played, so everything they did, I tried to outdo them. I was a tomboy at the time growing up. And so sports, they went swimming. I swam. They were swimming in shallow water. I was swimming in deep water. Then they played softball. They were hitting the ball to first base. I was hitting home runs.
Yes.
Then track came, and they were running and winning trophies, but always won at least 3 or 4 or 5 trophies more than them. And that was just to work very, very hard. But then I was looking at that and said, well, wait a minute, something's going on here with this strength that I had, that I noticed that was a little different from the other girls in the neighborhood, but I was a female. And there were 3 of us that got together, my best friends to this day, over 50 years. Later, Sandy Williams and Andrea Moore, who we lived in the same neighborhood, and we played together, and all 3 of us were like sisters, but we competed with the guys in the neighborhood just to show that we were just as good or better. So when they got older and went to high school, my brother and 2 cousins, they decided to play the trumpet. Okay, I came around and said, "Oh my goodness, don't tell me she gonna try to play the trumpet." Yes, I did. And I ended up playing the trumpet. Well, my brother was 2 years ahead of me, and I knew that I wanted to play that trumpet once I got to bed because I didn't know too many other instruments. And he would come home and put the horn underneath the bed and go outside to play. So I would watch him practice for like 5 minutes. I said, "No, that's not how you practice an instrument." But he had it. So I picked it up and played it. My sound was so loud, he heard me in the park.
Oh, no.
So he'd come back and see me with his horn and tell me to put his horn up. After he realized I wouldn't stop, and I guess I was increasingly getting better with the sound, he finally showed me how to play the C major scale. He said C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And he showed me the fingerings. He showed me how to set my embouchure, which is a facial mask to play and to produce the air in the mouthpiece by watching him. And so when I got that sound, I told my 8th grade teacher, who was a saxophone player, and he asked the class when we graduated, who would like to continue in music? Because we had a music class teaching us how to sing.
Yes.
And I raised my hand up. And so he said, "Well, let me go around one at a time." So he went through everybody in the class. It must have been about 30 of us in that class, 8th grade class. Everybody, all the girls were saying clarinet, flute, piano, and the boys were saying trombone and things of that nature. When he got to me, I said trumpet, and the whole class laughed.
Oh.
And he said, "Well, wait a minute. She might have something going on there if she said that."
Yes.
So I said, "Yes, I do." But I didn't know what I had. It's just what I wanted to do because I was able to play an instrument and I enjoyed it. Yes. So when I got to high school the next year, my band directors which I didn't know until later, were from Florida A&M. And my assistant band director who came in that year, because the band was increasingly getting larger, came in the same time. I was a freshman. So here I was learning the trumpet from a professor who left Florida A&M and Southern University and was teaching me as if I was a college student and I was a beginner. So that made me progress. So that's how I got to that trumpet and constantly continued and performed. I came from a family of 9 children. Mom and dad were in the home. Before I went to public schools, they put us in Bible school at the church, and summer Bible schools and Saturdays in the neighborhood. And we had this lady by the name of Viola Thompson who used to come and pick us up and made sure because we were supposed to be considered as quote unquote the good kids, because on the other side, a lot of the gangs. Yeah. But we were the church kids on the other side of the block and with the other kids who had the park. So we were over in the park staying out of trouble for the most part. And I grew up learning about Christ and the Bible and spiritual things because my parents were ushers in the church, and that's how they geared us. So education came along after my biblical studies. Yes. And then they came along together. So I grew up together with both of that knowledge of God. I wasn't perfect now, but I grew up with the knowledge of God, and I knew about education too. And most of my mom's siblings were educators as well, in terms of they had gone on to school, and they were very smart, very smart. They didn't go to college except for my oldest aunt, Bertha, who ended up teaching some of them. And and my brothers and some of my siblings, she taught them. And I was number 6 in the neighborhood. But I was always the one that was questionable, curious, nosy, wanted to see what was going on, couldn't stay in my place. And I remember my elementary school teacher said that I was the busybody in the class. You know what she's talking about? I just like going, when I had a free chance, going from desk to desk, talking to the students, talking to my peers. And I guess that's what she was talking about. But here I am today. I'm a doctor today. So maybe she was right.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it too. I really do love. We're going to circle back on that Miles Davis just a little bit, because you just kind of ran right through that. But wow. Oh my God. That is just amazing. My husband loves Miles Davis, and so do I, as a matter of fact. But wonderful. You lived close enough to him to know him.
Well, I didn't know him personally. My mom did. She only lived a mile from him. Yeah. And every Sunday we would go to East St. Louis. By that time, he was up in New York, going to New York at that time. But little did I know or did I known at the time that before I graduated from high school, or by the time I graduated from high school, my band teachers were playing with the George Hudson Big Band. And I found out when I first went to college and came back that summer, they asked me to sit in and listen to the members in the George Hudson Big Band. I was the youngest. Everybody was older. They were band directors all over the state of university. And he was the oldest. And that's when I found out that was one of the last big bands that Miles Davis played in before he left, going to New York looking for Charlie Parker.
Oh, yes.
To play in the band. So I came up a little bit. I played a couple of times with that band, George Hudson Big Band, and found out that information about Miles and how Miles Davis used to come across the river to St. Louis, which was only about a less than mile. I mean, I found out where his house is. I can go to his house now, not necessarily inside, but I know where the house is located.
Yeah.
Same area. My grandmama's house is knocked down now. Yeah. But you could see the lights over at East St. Louis. And I said, well, I can see how they pulled them there. Yeah. I can see because it wasn't that much over in East St. Louis, and everybody came over to St. Louis, which was the largest city with more things going on in the metropolitan area.
Would you say he was an influence to you as far as your music go?
Miles Davis was one of my major influences in jazz. In fact, David Hines, who introduced me to jazz improvisation, told me to listen to Miles Davis first. He was from the area. He said he's from the area. He's made a lot of major changes in the jazz field. And the modal side is where you should go through right now to find your voice. And that's what I did. Yeah. I finally had an opportunity to meet Miles Davis before he passed. After many times following him at concerts and as a professional musician and a professional teacher, and I would leave my business card, and I never heard from him or anything like that, and wanted to study with him, didn't hear anything like that. One day, when I was teaching at Xavier University, replacing Ellis Marcellus as the lecturer, Wynton Marsalis came back in town after Miles Davis returned back to the trumpet after his stroke for 5 years. That's when I went to that concert after I had a big band concert, and my students from Xavier got me in and behind the stage, and I met Miles Davis and Wynton Marsalis. I had met Wynton before. Yeah. But I got a chance to meet Miles, and Miles came up to me with his entourage after the concert, drinking his Budweiser beer and his red cake. First, he looked at me with my double trumpet bag. He turned around. Yeah. He looked at me, and he knew what I had. And he turned around, didn't say a word. Then it was time to go. I said, oh my gosh, if I go into Wynton Marsalis's dressing room, I won't get a chance to speak to my idol. Yeah. I'm just going to stand right here in this hall since this guy see me and see what happened. I didn't move. Yeah. Next thing I know, Miles Davis had about 30 people getting ready to walk him to the car. He came to me. Yes. He stood in front of my face. Yes. With his ears. I said to myself, oh my goodness, he's standing right here in front of me. I gotta say something. I gotta say something final. I said, oh, Mr. Miles Davis, I've been studying your music for years. I've been following you for years. Oh, I just love your music, and thank you so much for your contribution. And next thing he said, lady, I don't like school teachers, and walked off. I said, oh my goodness. Well, I got a chance to meet my idol. So the next week I saw him on the Today Show. And he said, I don't like school teachers because my school teacher always blamed everything on me because I was the darkest person in the classroom. So I felt that I said, well, I didn't take it personally anyway. I just said, now he's explaining to me what he said because he did say that to me a week later, and I didn't respond.
Trauma. There's some trauma there. Trauma there.
So I was just still very happy that I was able to speak to him, and he stood there because he saw me with that trumpet.
That's right.
The trumpet case. That's what made him come to me.
That's right.
Now, how he knew I was a school teacher, I don't know. Maybe somebody said something behind the stage. I don't know. I didn't say it. Yeah. But he knew I was a school teacher.
Yeah.
And a trumpet player.
Wow. Right. But that's
so I felt like that. I really felt like he had given me, even though what he said, but by stopping there, he passed a little torch to me. Sure. That's what I felt.
Absolutely.
Because he stopped in my presence.
Yeah.
All right.
He
And he
recognized.
saw
He
me, and he
recognized.
saw
That's
me, and
right.
he
He
looked me
saw
up
you
and
and
down.
recognized. That's right.
And he saw me, he looked me up and down and recognized that I had that double trumpet. I played
Yes.
that trumpet. I was
Yes.
dressed from a gig and I was standing right there.
That's right.
And he
That's right.
came to me. He
Mm-hmm.
came to me and stopped.
Awesome. That's
I
a
never forgot
story.
that.
That is
Yeah, that's
awesome, and
a
that's a
that's a
story.
that's a
So
story. Yes.
tell me about Nathaniel Clark Smith. Who is that?
Nathaniel Clark Smith is one of our unsung heroes. I would
Mm-hmm.
go as far to say as he's one of our first or one of our earliest HBCU band directors in the United States.
Ah.
Mhm.
We didn't know of this gentleman right away, even though I'm talking about in my time until
Mm-hmm.
I found Dr. Reginald Buckner's article about Nathaniel Clark Smith from the University of Michigan. I'm sorry, University of Minnesota.
Uh-huh.
And he said he discovered N. Clark Smith because he went to a music education conference in Kansas. He went to the libraries at the University of Kansas and he saw these articles about this guy named Nathaniel Clark Smith.
Mhm.
And he said, well, who is this guy and why I don't know anything about him? When he read about all the contributions that he had done in the Midwest, and he was affiliated with marching bands, and his students were part of
Mm.
the nucleus of the big band movement, he wrote an article in MENC and asked for a scholar to take the lead. I guess he
Wow.
was elderly and tired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, I was working on my dissertation at University of North Texas, and I told my teachers then, I said, look, I want to write my dissertation on my people. I've read enough about you all. I would like to read something about myself and us.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did I say that for? They made me wait 30 years.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, they didn't. They made me wait 7 years
Uh-huh. It
before
felt like
I was offered my dissertation. My PhD is becoming the second African American to receive a PhD in music education from that school. And
wow.
it took 30 years later for me to find a publisher because once I finished the dissertation, I went to California because I was a member of the Grammys, and I am.
Mm.
So I was trying to push the book, and
Mm-hmm.
everything they were saying that we want to talk to your agent. I didn't have an agent. I didn't
Right.
know anything about that. But then they asked me, "Did you have a script?" I said, "Oh, I saw I had somebody interested in asking about a script."
Mm.
I said, "No, not yet, but I would look into that." So when I came back to work at one of my schools and returned, I put it on the back burner so that I can get the teaching together, and that was up there in Camden
Mm-hmm.
at that time. And so right before I started retiring, I started thinking, I said, well, wait a minute. Let me look and see what's going on. And then when I started reading about some white people were beginning to start writing about my book, I said, oh no,
Ooh.
I've got to get this documented before I pass.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they're going to
Absolutely.
not have my name on here.
That's right.
Yes.
So that's what made me push to look for publishers.
Yes.
I found one that believed in me from Wall Street. Austin
Okay.
McCarthy's Publishers, that they worked out a deal with me, publishing project.
Mm-hmm.
And here it is, Nathaniel Clark Smith. And he was very, 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 very popular during his time. He lived from 1877 to 1934.
Wow.
Lived on a military base. He was not a slave. His
Yes.
father was not a slave.
Yes.
But during the abolition of music and prohibition after the Civil War, and blacks were trying to find a place to stay. They didn't have a place to eat. But here this gentleman
Mm-hmm.
was, clean shaved with a beard and a hat in
Mm-hmm.
the military base. And his father was the lead trumpeter and the quartermaster sergeant under then Colonel Theodore Roosevelt, who became our president, Roosevelt. So his
Oh.
father was an African, a full-blooded African, and his mom was a captured Indian who was
Yeah.
captured on the territory in the base and confined. And his
Mm-hmm.
father married her, and a year later, Nathaniel was born. So his
Wow.
father, being a musician, wanted to raise the child as a musician and a soldier. But Nathaniel's eyes were so bad, he gave up the soldier part and became a musician. So he was one of our first musicians, African-American musicians, that notated the spirituals for bands.
Okay.
We had others that
Wow.
notated the spirituals per se, but he's the one that notated for instrumental music and for band.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time he was 17, 18 years old, and he received his training from German musicians that came over to the fort because they were building and getting saloons and taverns, and it was becoming more metropolitan. And these people were coming in, then they taught him theory, music theory. So by the time he got older, and with Frederick Douglass coming in and giving speeches and things in that nature, Frederick Douglass knew the family. Frederick Douglass would come over and speak to the family, and Frederick Douglass taught Nathaniel Clark Smith how to play on the violin after tuning up the Negro spiritual, Still Away to Jesus.
Yeah.
That was his first concert. But eventually, before 1900, Nathaniel Clark Smith was smart enough to travel around the world with the Ernest Hogan minstrel troupe. And that's where he found saxophones and brought it back to the United States.
Okay.
And introduced the saxophone to the African-American community prior to jazz. Prior to the invention of jazz, he brought it back to the African-American community. And when he started teaching, and he went on to school partially and got certificates and things of that nature. And finally, when he got to Chicago, he got his bachelor's degree and his master's degree. He was traveling all over the world and helping children. And they couldn't believe because they never saw a clean-cut black man at that time like that.
Yeah.
All they had on was overalls and hair and trying to find somewhere to eat.
Yeah.
And this guy was feeding him and showing him how to wear a suit, showing him how to shave, clean cut. And he wanted to teach them, and he did. And he taught students who became pioneer jazz musicians.
Wow.
Lionel Hampton. Young Charlie Parker. Mary Lou Williams knew him. His students became the nucleus of the big band movement because he had sectionals in his bands. They took the sectionals from the military bands that he had, that he was raised in, and they were taking them outside and gigging on the corners with them. That became the nucleus of the big band movement. So Nathaniel Clark Smith, before he passed, he ended up in my town, St. Louis, as a music supervisor, worked at Roseburg. He worked for Frederick Douglass. He was with Booker T. Washington. He was with Paul Laurence Dunbar. And he came to St. Louis to be the music supervisor. And he composed spirituals. He composed marches. He was in with John Philip Sousa. He composed operatic songs, arias, minstrel tunes, symphonies, a folk song symphony, and African symphony that he was working on at the time of his death that was performed by the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra, the Negro Folk Suite. And he included elementary schools and high school students of music correlated with the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra and the St. Louis Symphony and the Board of Education to teach music and to allow African-American students to hear symphony orchestra's music.
This is an amazing story.
So that's why I came along, and that helped me. And I eventually became the first female band director in the HBCUs. And I didn't know my teachers were gearing me for that, but all started from N.C. Smith. Now, the modern marching band is Dr. William P. Foster from Florida A&M. He came and changed the whole marching band style. But N.C. Smith, back in before 1900, was the person that put it into elementary schools, middle schools, wherever he could work to help the Black community to learn about music, and not only playing music, but he was a reader, reading the music.
That's
learning the instrument.
That's a skill right there. Yeah. But wait, just based on his last name, is he related to you somehow, or related to your spouse, the Smiths?
No, he's not related to me, and he's not related to my spouse by marriage. He's related in terms of ancestors. My connection with him is through St. Louis, of working with that instrumental music program with the symphony orchestras that he came and he built. I just so happened to marry the Smith at the time. I'm divorced now, but that's that connection. But his connection with the bands included the anti-Arabs that had anything with the Midwest and the Southern parts with bands. Because Booker T. Washington hired him after meeting him at the Chicago World's Fair to come to Tuskegee to start the Produce Parade band. President Theodore Roosevelt, who came down and helped Tuskegee Institute with funds. So Smith was the right-hand person to Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee University during that time.
Yeah.
What I love about this story is the history and the legacy, right? So we hear these names, Booker T and all those names, right? That's history for us. But it's listening to you tell the story is right here in the present for me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I totally
Yes.
agree. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm listening to her too, and I'm captivated by just
Yes.
first
Her
what I'm
passion.
seeing is so much enthusiastic.
Yes.
You're just so overwhelmed still, even all these years
Yes.
later. You're so overwhelmed
Mm,
with all of this information and this knowledge.
mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've taken from you, and one of the things that Renee and I like to bring out is when you are trying to write, or what's the first step. And I'm going to really say the first step is a love for what you're doing. You have such a great
Yes.
love for music, for your
Mm,
Yes.
craft as a trumpeter, as your determination, even when you were telling the story about growing up with your brother and your determination to play that
yeah.
trumpet. That is, to me, that right there is how it all begins.
Mm,
It makes
Yes.
sense that you could be a writer. Why not? Because of your love and your
enthusiasm. Yeah.
enthusiasm
Yeah.
for what you are writing about. So absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, when I was in the 6th grade with Mr. Robert E. Lee, who was also in the military, but he came to the
Mm-hmm.
6th grade. He had been there before me and had a huge popularity within
Mm-hmm.
the school because he was teaching students how to march, drill. So that's why I got my drill experience basically with him before the bands.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Lee was the English teacher also. And one of the biggest impact on him is that he loved poetry. And number two, he taught his students how to read a newspaper, and specifically not just the cartoons, which that's what we went to.
Yeah.
He told us how to read an editorial and to write a summary. So that opened up my mind right there because I said I never thought about it, reading an editorial
Right.
Yeah.
and writing a summary.
Yeah.
So the entire class reported on the summaries. We had to do this weekly. And because of that, training with that gentleman, it only happened one time when I took those standardized tests in the 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Before I went to the 7th grade, I had scored high school, ninth
Wow.
grade,
Mm-hmm.
ninth grade in language arts. That
Yes.
one time. But I
Yes.
knew that had a lot to do with that class because we had to write essays on the standardized test as well.
Yes.
So I had to thank Mr. Lee for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So because of writing those things down there, by the time I got to, of course, you're writing papers all along and research
Right.
papers. By the time you get to the college, you're writing research papers, and then you're writing more on your master's degree. And by the time I was working in the HBCUs and writing curriculum writings, it was all adding up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
by the time I worked on my dissertation, which was very, very difficult now, I'm not going to
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
but I was used to sitting down and being focused for a period of time.
Yeah.
Now I had to
Mm-hmm.
develop longevity with that.
Mm-hmm.
Had to develop longevity with that, and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting and answering questions and narrowing things down and cutting the fat out. But all of that came in time. I believe had I just popped into that, it would have been much more difficult, even though it was
Yeah.
difficult anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of Mr. Lee, who started that idea to make us read,
Yeah.
which we were reading all along, but to read and to write in your own words what you read.
Yes.
That was the
Mm-hmm.
first time I was actually really doing that.
Yes.
Other
Mm-hmm.
than that, you were reading and Tip loves Minton, and all this kind of stuff like that. You were getting the words back together, but the idea to think, deep thinking was, I would say, with Mr. Lee. Mr.
Yeah.
Robert E. Lee
Yeah.
did that for us.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because what I'm hearing from you is that most people, maybe not everybody, but I'm gonna say most writers always start with a love for reading. Reading first, learning how to
Mm.
read, learning how to put words together, learning how to, like you said, to have a deep thought about the written word. You getting that information early on, you being thrust into that early on, probably opened up doors to you. Would you say that is true in your case?
Yes, that is true, because later on down the line, then I started developing and learning how to start write questions.
Mm.
Questions on the topic. What did I want to do? Who is this person? Where are they from? So I had a series of maybe about 100 questions, and I narrowed them down because sometimes you you can combine the questions to one or two to look for information. And this was the basis of the research. And then because of the basis of the research, then you start narrowing into dates. That's where your chapters come in. Part one, part two, three, four, or what have you. So now you're following a design. You're following a pattern. And it's leading up from a beginning to an end with chapters involved with it. So yes, of course, I would say my biggest project was this dissertation, without a doubt. And then writing this book, because even after the dissertation, for the publishers, I had to narrow the book down even further. I went from over 500 pages to 230. That's almost half the dissertation.
Absolutely. Wow.
I had to cut the fat out. It's probably, cut it thin to make it to the point. And that's what I did.
What's great, what I'm hearing, what's great about that is you already had the basis. You had the story in your dissertation. You just really had to go back and revise it to cut out some of the words to make sure that it was, everybody wanted to read it. It was something for everybody to read. So that's good. That was good. How hard was it to cut out some of the information you had?
It was almost like writing a dissertation all over again. Because I had to cut out and combine instead of taking one sentence and say, well, I said this here, maybe I can include this here to make it one paragraph and not repeat it here. Right. So I was learning these types of techniques. And not only that, I did have, I had editors. I worked with a lot of editors. I had to get a lot of editors. And University of North Texas, I don't know what was going on with them at the time, but they didn't like most of the editors I had, if any of them. And I had the head of the English department of UNT's wife. So I thought something else was going on other than just the writing. And it took our band director from Hampton, Dr. John Taylor, who's deceased now, who pulled my coattail and told me that those people were just playing around with me, which they were.
Yes.
Which they were. When they finally put it together and let me on out of there. Now, thank God. And once they let me out of there, matter of fact, I finished all the coursework and I left and came up to Candid, Philadelphia, Candid area, because I said, whatever's going to go on, it's going to go on up here. I'm not going to stay there and let them do that in my face anymore. Took a little longer, but they didn't see me every day to do that.
Right.
And that's what made the difference.
At least you caught on to what was going on.
I caught on to what was going on. I said, they'll keep me here forever. So once I removed myself from the situation and went back and forth, okay, they were mad and maybe still a little longer, but I got it done.
Now, were you thinking about writing a book before your dissertation? Was that something that you were thinking about?
Yes. I always had my memoirs in mind because I was doing so many wonderful things. But I knew I couldn't get a doctorate writing about me. I knew that. I knew I had to do research on something that was going on. But I told him, I said, look, I know Mozart, Handel, Haydn, and the rest of them, they're great, wonderful, and everything. I know we've done some things. I want to write about me, my family, my people. I want to learn and be able to talk about these things about the African-American condition because we don't have enough of that. And when I put my foot down, I mean, they gave me hell, but I got it done.
Because what year was that? I was going to say they probably had a lot of pushback because of the time.
Well, I started in January 1986. I got my doctorate in 1993 when they finally let me finish.
Wow.
I
was trying to get it before I was 40. I think I got it right at 40.
Okay.
And I was trying to get it before 40. But that wasn't going to happen. Matter of fact, when I finished the coursework in 3 years because I had.
That's what I was going to ask.
I had just as much education in terms of teaching experience as most of my teachers.
I
had 10 years of college teaching experience before I went to work on my doctorate.
Wow.
They really didn't know how to handle me. That was the impression they were giving me, but they did. And there were some great points that happened too, but it was very stringent, but not as stringent as that master's program. But I finally got it and got through it, but it was no piece of cake.
Right.
But when I came out,
you got through it. And
I got through with it. And at the time in 1993, they had not let out an African-American male with a PhD in music at all. And they told me, well, it's about time for us to let another one of y'all out. This is 30 years later. After they let the first Black woman out 30 years before me, and she left and went to Africa.
Wow.
Now, I was the second one. Now, I'm sure they probably had more since then.
Yeah.
But I was number 2, and that was
hope.
1993 when I got it granted.
That's right,
hope.
Renee. Let's hope. Let's hope. But you know what? I always say there's always a reason for things. You went through what you went through to bring you to this place. Let's talk about your memoir, your biography that you are working on right now. Let's talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm working on my biography. I'm writing it, and it's in bits and pieces. Now I'm finally putting it together, and I'm trying to include all of the areas, all of the major areas, and the people that were involved with me. So through my life. So whereas Smith picture only had one, which is the front, because it was hard to get permission for all the other pictures. So instead of going through all of that, I just stayed neutral. This way, I'm the person. I can put as much as I want. So I can tell the story the way I want to tell it, which is going to be the truth. And from coming from those very beginnings of the things that I told you before, and all the avenues and the places I've gone to, because as my mom told me, she said, "Goodness, Diane, I've only had one phone number other than growing up, an address in my life, and you had about 20 of them so far." Because I was always on the go trying to find information to move ahead. And when I came to the East Coast, to the northern part of the East Coast, I guess I found my spot because I 34 years. That was longer than growing up as a child. It was longer than any other place that I had ever worked with. And a lot of it had to do with because I was in the area of music. New York. Jersey, Philadelphia. You can't go wrong with the music, and that's why I needed to do that. St. Louis had its music at its time, of course, yes. But St. Louis to me was very isolated. You had St. Louis, you had the blacks here in St. Louis, away on the other side of the state in Kansas, or across the river a little bit in East St. Louis, and then way 6 hours in Chicago. We weren't all up and down the East Coast, African Americans, like on the East Coast.
That's right.
We were exactly where they wanted us, where they knew where black folks were.
That's right.
So when I came along, I realized the racism and the problems I was going to have to try to succeed where I wanted to go in my dream, and I felt I had to leave. Because if I had stayed in St. Louis, probably never would be a doctor today. I probably never would even be playing music today. I probably had to give it up and do something else. Because
that's that determination.
I ran into too many, and it weren't obstacles, but I saw these things as I was growing up. And I said, well, what's going to make it be any different with this? I don't want to fight these battles. I want to go where I can go and grow and fight those battles.
And that's why I say,
and that's what I did.
Right? We pick and choose our battles, right?
That's what I did. And I felt that the Lord was with me all along.
That's right.
That's why those things happen. So when I got my first job, before I got the first job at Fayetteville State, got my master's, I went from kindergarten to master's degree.
Wow.
Hampton gave me a full scholarship my junior year in high school. I was happy to go there. See if I could major in music. And then Dr. Sylvester Young, who retired from Florida A&M University as the band director for the last 5, 6, 7 years, sent me to Bowling Green where he got his master's to study with the top teacher who Chuck Mangione had studied with. We studied with him, got the master's degree. Then I didn't know. I said, oh my gosh, I'm a poor girl. Where am I going to go next? Lord, and I prayed. I said, I'm the only black in this class. All these people had all these experiences where their family did these things. My parents didn't have any money. And I'm grateful for where I am. I said, I need a job. I can't go back to St. Louis without a job. And here I got the job at Fayetteville State University, the only one out of the class to get the college job.
Okay.
Me.
Look at
one of the others at the time, I'm sure there are probably others now after I left, didn't even stay to get my master's degree to March. I left and told them to put it in the mill. And I went down to Fayetteville. That's how much I wanted to get out of there. And go down to North Carolina and teach. And that's why I became the first female band director at Fayetteville State University.
That's amazing.
So you have a lot of pioneering moments yourself. So I'm sure that this book is going to be filled with firsts. Because just from this conversation alone, there were a lot of firsts that you talked about. So I love that. Yes. I'm excited for you.
I'm excited too. So how far along are you in the writing? When can we expect it to be?
Well, I have 5 chapters right now.
Mm-hmm.
5 chapters based on information that came from, I got it off of Facebook in terms of what direction to go and how to get it organized and things of that nature. I'm going to see how that's going to go. I'm going to send it to them because, first of all, I'm going to have that finished by January, and that's for the family. Then I'm going to elaborate all of that for later on for the public. So this was the first thing, in case something happened to me, that I have it documented for my grandchildren, my son, because we're here.
Yeah, yeah.
Every year I have to take them to St. Louis to visit. They have family here in Philadelphia. They have family in Florida. So I got to make sure with my heart, even though I traveled to do what I did, that they still know the background of this family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's important to me. So this is the information. I have to leave them with faces and names and where we are.
So
I feel that's my duty.
Book. Yeah.
That's my duty to do that. Because I brought them here. I was the first one here. Now I have a family here. With the grace of God. I have to let them know where everybody is located, where I know all the way back to Mississippi, where my father was born, and where we have Indians in the graveyard. It goes all the way back there. So all of that's going to be into the book.
Oh, wow. That's exciting.
And then I'll spread it out, elaborate even more. So this is like the first big draft for the family with pictures, the family, the pictures, my teachers, everybody who I work with. People tell me, "Oh, I've never been in a book." Well, they're probably going to read a book if they're associated with me if I know about it. That's going to be for them, and then we'll elaborate from that.
That's awesome.
Yes, I think that's awesome too because we're talking about legacy. Yes. We're talking about legacy, and legacy is so important to me. I remember I just told my grandson's girlfriend that I really want my 4-year-old granddaughter to really understand where she came from on both sides. She asked me not that long ago where my father was. My father's deceased, and he passed away along with my mom 5 years ago. So I have a picture of my mom. I have a picture of my husband's mom on the wall, and she says, "Well, where is your daddy? Where is your daddy?" And it reminded me of how important legacy was. And how important it was for me as a writer, like you just said, Dr. Eva, thank you for saying that, to write about my journey from where I came so that she can have a trail. She can see the legacy. She can see our family roots for back. And it may not be as exciting as yours. But I think it is definitely a starting point for anyone who wants to leave a legacy and who have an interest in writing, I think.
Yes. And I agree. And my whole premise is that everyone has a story. Everybody. All of us have a story to tell.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to tell my story because I had done so much in this lifetime. That generations from now, I want them to know that they had a great mama who was this. If I don't put it down there, they may not ever know that.
I love that.
And that's the whole reason. And if they do important things or whatever, add on, because this is the legacy. This is the legacy of the Lyle family. This is the legacy of the Lyle-Smith family, what have you. And so you did have a grandmama who was the first female band director in the HBCU. They may go to HBCU and don't even know anything about that.
That's right.
So I have to let them know that they know that so they can tell that story, and maybe they want to write about me in one of their classes.
What's full circle about these stories, your story and Caroline's story, is that I was telling Caroline, one of our podcasts, that I doing something similar, right? So I'm from Florida, Panama City, Florida. And my great-great-grandfather was a freeman, and his father was a freeman in Panama City. And they have streets and buildings and things named after them. But my father, who is from his lineage, never told me about it. It was my mother who actually said, "Oh, this street is named after your great-great-grandfather." I'm like, what?
That's important. That's important.
Yes,
very important.
We have groups that we talk about those things, and as I find information on ancestry DNA, and I share that with our family, all the sides, so they will know. I won't be a gatekeeper, because I won't be here forever, and I don't know that I plan to write a book about it, but at least they'll know because I shared every single thing that I find about our great-great-grandfather.
But that's wonderful. And we should do that, because that's part of our problem. Because a lot of us don't know anything about our lives.
That's right.
Exactly.
We don't know anything about our lives.
That's right.
I'm very fortunate to know about my father's side because he spoke more about it, the African side of it than and the Indian side of it than I had ever heard anybody speak. Now, my mother didn't speak about the Indian side so much. She spoke about now. My dad went all the way back before Civil War, and I know who my great grandparents are, and they were slaves. And I know where they are in the graveyard.
Oh, I
in
love that for
Mississippi.
you. Yes,
You see, and I carried that to my children. Every time I go home, my grandsons, and I did it with my son until he got grown, would take him to the graveyard. My son knew my parents. My grandson didn't know my parents, but they know my parents through me.
That's right. That's right.
And my legacy.
Yeah.
We have photos of that.
Yeah.
Love it.
And for their children. And their children after that, because they need to know that they're here in Pennsylvania. They won't know that in St. Louis.
That's right. That is right.
But that's what's important because I don't want that gap. I don't want that gap. I want it to continue. I want that line.
Bridge the gap.
And
that's right.
This conversation is really, really bringing home how important our legacy is and how we must continue to talk about our ancestors. And when we say our ancestors, they don't have to be 100 or,
that's right.
or 500 years down the pipe. We could, the idea that I never even talked to my granddaughter about my grandmother or my mother. I mean, it's just something as simple as I need to tell her about the the few generations behind me. Let's keep that part going.
That's right.
I tell them that. I tell them all the illnesses that I know about them in case it comes up in the family. Later on, I tell them about all of that. I said, well, your dad had this and your mom had this and your grandparent and I have it. Maybe it might come to you. I just want you to be aware of this so you don't be shocked. And if it's not, I won't say it. But I'm just trying to see how it goes. If I had heavy periods and my grandsons had heavy nosebleeds, the first thing the doctor asked me, did you have heavy periods? I said, yes, I did. And my mother did. And my sisters did. And my cousins did. So it ran in the family, even with the boys.
Same
so
with
they
my
can understand that and not be afraid when that happened.
I never put that together. It was same with my grandson. I never put that together with my grandson.
I didn't think about anything like that either. You know,
that's just
it. Don't think about those things at all. And these are all. This whole entire conversation is bringing so much to the forefront. I mean, we all should be doing. We all should be considered. Even if you are not, even if you're not consider yourself a writer, just to jot down what you know about yourself, about your family, about your mother, about your father, about your grandmother, about your grandfather. So this whole entire conversation is so useful right now. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. And this generation, if I can add this footnote on,
please,
has it much better than us because they have cell phone, computers, laptops. Google. If they don't want to write it down, all they can do is click the button and talk.
You can talk.
So there's no reason why they can't get things down. Other than they just don't do it. They have much more things than we had coming along.
We need to encourage it, though. We need to continue to encourage it because we're losing pieces of ourselves. And
Absolutely.
We are.
And we can fix that by just simply jotting things down. Talking things out loud.
Put the pictures together. Put the pictures together for them. Have it there for them.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so important about our family because we lost so much. Even when I went to Africa in 81, 82, the Louisiana Consortium and International Studies grant, Stokes. There were 13 of us.
Wow.
I was so happy to get to West Africa. I kissed that ground and I saw so many people and I said, oh my goodness. That looked like such could be a such family. And they looked like such over there. But they were speaking in a different language, but they had the same features. I said, oh my goodness. And we don't even know this is going on.
That is my goal because, like I said, I did my ancestry DNA and it tells me I'm Nigerian. I am so excited to even say that I'm Nigerian, right? Because my parents didn't know. They didn't do ancestry. One father came from Spain, and I don't know, they don't know where their parents came from. So it's lost. So I'm grateful for the progression of the world, right? Ancestry DNA to let us know where we come from, whether, partially, I'm sure they don't tell you that they didn't tell me what tribe or whatever, but at least it pinpointed that, yes, you're Nigerian.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And
I'm so grateful for that.
And that's even more important with us because many, if not most of us, don't know where exactly we came from in Africa, and we don't know anything about our Indian heritage.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
In this country.
Yeah.
In this country.
Yeah.
We're almost like a lost, wandering soul.
Yes. Yeah.
My
But
mother's side of the family.
we need to connect that. We need to make that clear for our next generation.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The Indian side of my family is on my mother's side of the family. That much I do know.
Yeah.
I don't know
Pass
a
it
lot.
on.
I don't know. When I say that's all I know, that's all I know. And that's on my mother's side of the family, but I don't have much info on it.
Right.
Another thing, it just seems like, to me, it just seems like nobody wants to talk about it. You know,
or don't
as
know.
a writer, I was asking questions because I want to know, because I want to write about it.
Right.
I don't seem to want to know or don't want to share or whatever the case may be. I don't understand it.
You know what I find? I find that they just didn't think that it would be that important later in life. You know what I mean?
I can see that.
People are going through and surviving back then. So it being history breaking or groundbreaking to us, it was just a way of life for them.
Yes.
And sometimes it was traumatic too.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very traumatic.
Yeah, I've tried to pull some stuff out of my father. It just seemed like it was traumatic. So I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was traumatic for my father too. Like I said, my mother grew up in East St. Louis. So I call her the city person. My dad was from the country.
Yeah.
He got forced out of Mississippi looking for a better way of life, and he came to St. Louis. He didn't want to go to Memphis. It was too close to Tupelo, Mississippi. He didn't want to go to Chicago. This is listening to him because it was too fast. So he picked St. Louis, and that's where he ended up meeting my mother. But my dad, who was 11 years older than my mom, and they stayed together over 52 years too, and raised us, took us and would take us to major funerals back to Mississippi so that we knew where he was from, and the entire graveyard is full of us.
Wow.
Okay.
Down there,
well, that's
goes
good.
all the way before all the way when my grandparents were slaves.
Yeah. Wow.
It's in that to let us know where they are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what made me let my kids know where my grandparents are, and they're going to know where I am.
Yeah. And that's what I want to do for my kids. I didn't get that. I wasn't able to pull it to my father or my mother for that matter. But I think just because you need a starting point, so I can be the starting point for my children.
Yes.
We definitely need a starting point. So
you have to be the starting point, because once you leave and they grow up and get older, and the doctor asks, "Well, did this run in your family?" I don't know. I don't know. Tell them.
What's so cool about this conversation, we three women, is we're all in line with this same topic. I know we're talking about Author Speak, and right now we've kind of segued from that, which is fine because
we didn't.
We didn't. Not our standard.
This is about legacy. This is about calculating, writing down, keeping a history of our legacy. This is all part of Author Speak.
All right. So Caroline and always we agree and disagree. So I'm gonna disagree on this one right here, because right now for me, this is, it's about legacy, but it's the living word legacy to me. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there's a written legacy, yes, but we also need to make sure that we're passing along the living word legacy of what happened, telling the stories of what happened. Everybody might not capture them down in paper in book form. People may not do that. And so right now we're talking about to me, we need to make sure that we're telling our stories, passing it down. That's what Indians used to do. They used to tell their stories through song and through music. So that might have been their written word, but through it was always talk, pass this down, always talk, pass this down. And this is what I'm getting out of this conversation for me, to make sure that I'm doing that for my grandchildren and great grandchildren, whether or not I write it down or not, but to make sure that I pass it down through word so that they can hear it and remember it. And that's just me. That's just me. Mm-hmm.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
And that's fine, because that's our African oral tradition. That's what the griots did.
Yes,
Word
ma'am.
of mouth.
Yes,
we've always done that. That's our tradition. The writing came with the Western culture.
Yes, ma'am.
They came over here and told us how to write this stuff down. But the African griots went even before that.
That's right.
And music and drum beats and drums
and that's what I'm getting out of this. I'm loving this.
That's all part of it.
I'm loving this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, with our few minutes that we have left, I'm going to ask you I'm going to go through some questions that you can answer. Okay. So, question number one is, how do you find time to write? That's a very good question for you because you are a very busy person, but yet you are writing your memoirs. So, share with our
Right.
audience how you find time to write.
Is that
That's
to
for
me
you.
or
Yes, that's for
Yes, that's for
okay?
you,
Well,
Dr. Eva.
okay. Since I've retired and prior to retiring, my favorite hours are 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 to 4, 2 to 5 o'clock. That means
Okay.
that if I've worked all day and then have to come home and feed or do whatever I have to do, I'm going to go to sleep 3 or 4 hours.
Okay.
Then I'm going to wake up when everybody's gone to sleep and it's peaceful and it's quiet. And that's when all the juices come out.
Yeah.
My periods are 2 in the morning to about 5 o'clock.
I love
Then I'll
that.
fall asleep at 5 for about a couple of hours, get up and shower and go to work for the 9 o'clock class.
Uh-huh.
Or if I'm not writing, that's when I usually rehearse. When
Yeah.
it's peaceful and quiet with a mute. With a mute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 50 years and no one has ever knocked on my wall and said, be quiet or what have you. Never.
Wow.
Because I do it with a mute. I don't just take.
Yes.
Only time I did play without the music when I lived in New Orleans. 5 years, and you could just practice and play all night in the French quarters. They didn't care what you was doing.
They didn't care. Yes.
We'd be playing
That's very
2 o'clock in the
interesting.
morning.
That's very interesting, but I'm speaking with creative people, and I'm not just talking about writers. I'm talking about creative people in general, and myself included. It seems like early mornings are their favorite time. Because even myself, I get up quite early in the morning, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and that seems to be when I'm also most because I'm just waking up. I've usually had some very lucid dreams. I'm usually able to just take all of that, what I have, and just, I'm very creative. But it seems like creative people have early morning hours when it comes to whether it's music or whether it doesn't matter what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
The mind is sharp, it's flowing, and you rested.
I think
fresh.
so.
Fresh with anybody coming in with any problems.
Yeah.
It's you and the Lord. That's why it says you and the Lord.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So another random question is, what important advice would you give a first-time author? Because you are a first-time author, and so is our co-host, Miss Renee Marshall McHenry.
Yes.
Yeah. So what advice would you give a first-time writer, author?
Dream about what you would like to do. And see, that's what I did. I dreamt about African-American writers.
Yeah.
And then come down with a list of questions. Why do you want to write about this person? What interest do you have in this person? Who is this person? Why is this person important to know about?
Yeah.
Why is there a need to know about this person? Are we missing certain things? And what could you say to help other people in learning about this person? So I come up with these ideas directly about that person, and then I'll come up with a set of questions about each of those topics that I'm talking about, and then look at the lifespan am I talking about so I wouldn't be rambling all over the place. In other words, if the person was born, if I'm going to write about the person's life and the death, there's a certain period of time that I have to break it down into portions. I can't say every 10 years. I have to look at the life that they live. Maybe I could talk about from birth to going to school if they want to. Or I can talk about the formative years, educational up until high school graduation. What happened to college? Anything on, and then the professional career. That's 4 or 5 chapters right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're breaking them down and you're controlling, as they told us on the doctoral level. You must control your subject. You must be the person who knows everything about that subject.
Yes.
You're the expert. Yeah. That's the way you're supposed to write it. Like nobody else knows this but me, but you're telling them.
Yes.
Love that.
And that's true of fiction too, because I often tell people that same thing. I'm a fiction writer, but at the same time, like I told Renee and how I share with all of the rest of my audience, I create those characters. But I have to live with those characters. I have to know those characters better than know anything else.
Anybody.
Yeah.
That means that I give them a personality. I give them quirks and things that fears and things that make them human. I have to live with them. I have to become them. And I literally become my characters.
Yeah.
I literally put skin on them. I am skin on them, and I become them because I need to know them better than my readers, anybody. I need to know their next move. I need to know what could possibly happen to them.
Yeah. And that's how you pull the reader. That's how you pull the reader. Yes. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, let me hear some. Oh, I didn't know that either. You're pulling it. And that's what you're constantly pulling with the things that they don't know about this person that makes them unique.
And Caroline does a great job at that.
And because it's very important that you give every character a backstory. They need to be as humanized as possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. Even though I don't write nonfiction, I do write nonfiction because I do a lot of religious writings, obviously.
Okay.
But when I'm writing a story, it's usually a fiction story about someone or something that I created. I have created every single character that I've ever written about, except for biblical characters, of course, because they're already there. But what I even try to do with the biblical characters that I write about is like you mentioned, Dr. Eva, I have to know them. That means I have to live with them. I have to read their stories. I have to understand what they were going through at the time they were going through it. I have to look at every part of that. Where were they? In what region of the world? What was happening during that time? It can't just be me picking it up and saying, oh, I'm going to write about Eve. Well, no, I have to know everything there is to know about everything.
Yeah.
In order for me to be able to write a cohesive story about that character and that individual. Well, you were wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Here's one more major point.
Yes, I'm going to give you an opportunity to say some more.
If I just say that, is that when you're talking about historical research or telling a story, it's really all about cause and effect. I became first female band director. Okay, that's the effect. But what was the cause? The cause was everything that led up to that. Yes. And that's part of the story of how this happened. It just didn't pop up.
Very important.
I didn't get it in the mail.
Yes,
but I became because of what I did. These were the effects that made this cause that.
Yeah,
and that's what it is. Why did this happen? Because these are the things that she did for this to happen.
Right. Absolutely. And also, Renee, pay attention to this because this is how it happens even with fictional characters. You have to give them a cause and effect. You have to say the reason why your character did this, that, or the other. The foreshadowing
because of this.
Or the other stuff that happened because it has to be real.
It's got to be real.
Doctor, it's got to flow. I'm saying, oh Lord, because I know I struggle in this area because I only wrote one book, right? And it's a true book. You know, it's nonfiction. And it's true. So I have yet to learn how to write a fictional character book. So this is why she always gives me these tips. And I go, oh God, because it's a struggle for me. I'm going to get it. I'm getting there. And actually we have this writing group called Friends. What is it? Writing with Friends?
Writing with Friends.
Writing with Friends. So I am on my journey because we did publish one Writing with Friends, and it was a fictional situation where we all had to contribute our stories. So I'm learning as I go by.
But what helps you to learn is listening to the stories that come on from our fabulous authors.
Definitely.
Who come on this podcast and share the way Dr. Eva shared. So it's a lot of learning. And we learn a lot when we're on this network. And that is why I am so grateful for the authors who come and share. And Dr. Eva, I really want to thank you for your
Thank you.
Your story was absolutely wonderful. And I am looking forward to your memoirs.
Yes.
You are an amazing person.
Yes.
You should talk about yourself. You should really talk about yourself because I know I grew up, with my mom saying you shouldn't blow your own horn. You should let somebody else do it. But, I've been living long enough to say that I think that you need to talk about yourself.
Yes, you do. You need to blow your own horn so you blow it right.
Right. You need to blow your own horn sometime.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. So I am looking forward to your memoir.
Thank you so much.
I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm actually interested in Nathaniel Clark Smith, so I'm definitely going to purchased the book because, you know, I like reading about remarkable people who look like me.
Well, he's remarkable.
Yeah.
And so
yes, he is. Matter of fact, when he passed in 1934, his students from all over the United States that he worked with, he gave him a testimonial choir that started 11 o'clock at night to 11 o'clock the next night.
Wow.
24 hours. And then the next year, the Pullman Porters, who he wrote music for too, gave him a special concert. So this man was very, very popular during his time, but when he passed in 34, he was overlooked.
Yes.
We're bringing him back out.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love that.
And we love it.
And thank you.
And we thank you. All right. So you've been listening to Author Speak from the Real Talk, Real People podcast network. I am Caroline Bethea-Jones, your host, and my co-host is Renee Marshall McKinley. And we are happy to have you here, and we will be back with another author to give us another fantastic story. And we hope you will join us too. See you next time.